The T+A Solitaire T is the best wireless and wired headphone I've heard. While not inexpensive, it manages to be competitive with pure wired headphones in its price range, so I think it qualifies as a solid value, and sonically as a genuine accomplishment among wireless options. There is a catch though. Ladies and gentlemen, music lovers and audiophiles, today we'll be reviewing the T+A Electroacoustic Solitaire T headphones. I hope you enjoy this. T+A is a major German manufacturer of audio equipment including speakers, amplifiers, DACs, headphones, and headphone amps, among other things. T+A is expanding its efforts in the US, and as part of that work, we have the Solitaire T wireless headphones on review today. I was surprised that they chose this model for us to focus on, until I heard it. The Solitaire T sells for $1,700. All right, let's start as we normally do with the product design. Nominally, this is just a closed-back design with large 42mm dynamic drivers. However, T+A makes it clear that they've paid attention to driver damping and to the weight and stiffness of the diaphragm itself. They claim to have reduced bad driver behavior, so-called eigenmodes. They also have paid attention to the bass transient response of the driver and ear cup combination. I asked Siegfried Aft, CEO of T+A, about the philosophy behind this. He said this.
The most important fact is that the passive construction and design of the unit is so good that you can use it at home. That means that we do not need any kind of frequency correction afterwards, for example, done by a processor. The unit itself is absolutely linear and has an extremely good sound quality.
Now, I'll get to sound quality in a bit, but the driver enclosure design seems to be anything but an afterthought. The other standout element in my SQ-oriented mind are the choices of signal paths. You can drive the Solitaire T like a standard passive headphone, bypassing all the circuitry and using your preferred source and DAC and amplifier. At the other extreme, you can use the Solitaire T in full wireless mode via Bluetooth. Generally, in Bluetooth mode, your phone would stay in your pocket and the headphones on your head. Easy. But through no fault of T+A, Bluetooth is generally limited to about 300k bits per second, which is about 1/5 the data rate of CD and about 1/15 the data rate of high-res music. There is aptX HD offered, although this, given different phone or DAP capabilities, can be tricky, largely because there's relatively little support for these higher data rate codecs, at least now. We would say that the Bluetooth mode is fine in noisy environments where you're moving around, brew pubs or walking, that kind of thing. The Solitaire T features active noise cancellation for these noisier environments too. But compared to what comes next, Bluetooth comes up short. Then there is the potentially secret sauce, which is the ability of the Solitaire T to transmit high-res music from your phone's USB port via a USB cable. T+A calls this high-quality mode, though it also works with aptX HD. This approach gets around the data limitations of Bluetooth if you have the right USB cable. The digital signal goes from your phone to the Solitaire T and then to an ESS DAC, a 9018 if you follow these things, which does the D to A conversion, and then an internal discrete amp makes the headphones actually work. The use of a wire, or ensuring that you have aptX HD support, might be a catch, but if it works for you, this would seem to be a baseline setup for those interested in SQ and portability. Phone in pocket or on the desk, Solitaire T on the head, cable in between the two. Here's Siegfried again, talking you through the basic idea here.
We took several measures to achieve the best possible sound quality in the active mode. Just to be comparable to the extremely good sound quality of the passive mode. That means we are not using standard converters or standard amplifiers and output stages. The end user can select a high quality mode, which means we are using extremely high quality Saarbrücken converter plus additional high current output stages, which means that the transducers are connected directly to a good amplifier, and the sound quality is really extremely good.
When in the active wireless modes, either Bluetooth or high quality, there is an app which allows tuning the sound profile, at least in Bluetooth mode. But unlike many other headphones with such a feature, which also give the user a graphic equalizer and no guidance, caveat emptor mode we might call it, T+A provides EQ presets. I didn't find these modes very useful, but I'm reviewing for realism and not special effects, and I'm a huge fan of subtlety. More on this later. All right, let's talk about sound quality. We'll start with high quality mode, since that strikes me as the best balance of usability and sound quality. I grant that some people may simply hate wires, and I'll cover pure Bluetooth operation next, but if you want portability and SQ, and don't view wires as the work of the devil, high quality mode makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot to like here. Let's start with the bass, because that's a big point of differentiation between headphones, and it seems to matter to a lot of listeners. Bass on the Solitaire T is detailed, and it goes pretty deep. Now, if you focus on EDM or hip hop, you may want more deep bass level, but you might also be surprised by how rewarding the bass quality of the Solitaire T is. On music, which is most music, where the bass is more of a foundational than a solo instrument, the Solitaire T is very effective. Unlike many headphones that pump up the mid or upper bass to keep bass heads happy, but then lose control in musicality, the Solitaire T is highly engaging on tracks that feature bass. A few examples may help. The bass drum whack on Maybe by Alison Krauss is full of air and sounds attractive and detailed, but I'd say the fundamental punch is slightly light. The synth on Taylor Swift's Delicate was as musical as I've heard it, with good depth and rare detail. The synth on Fakir's Sea Song at times simply lacked the subterranean rumble that systems flat to 30 hertz can deliver, although if you don't know how this sounds on a system with good response below 40 hertz, you may be perfectly happy. Acoustic jazz bass, for example, on ESTs from Gagarin's point of view, is rich and ideally paced. And I should say that the detail of the Solitaire bass really helps the bass feel quick and lively on many songs, not just this one. Moving on up the frequency range, the mid-range is open and pretty darn flat, without the dips that often cause a somewhat closed-in sound on other headphones. The mid-range also retains most of the lower mid richness that is needed to make pianos and vocals sound real and not thin. This balancing act is tough for almost all headphones. When we get to the mid-range to treble transition region, I'm talking about 2K to 5K, I'd characterize the Solitaire T as having smooth but strong output. These upper fundamental tones sound right on good recordings, but a bit bright on those where the production team has assumed your speakers or headphones are rolled off. As an example of this latter phenomenon, Straight On, a remastered 70s recording by Hart, has more upper mid and low treble energy than these voices and instruments would normally provide. But I've heard this track on some of the best speakers in the world by Tidal and Magico, and it sounds tipped up in this region on them as well, which makes me think that the Solitaires have it about right, although possibly slightly tipped up. If we switch to Trollbunden by Slor, we find gloriously clear and detailed treble that helps spotlight instruments and voices. The nice thing is that the treble in and above this range doesn't get harsh, as is the case with so many headphones trying to track the daunting Harman curve. Her sibilants sound just like clear sibilants. To summarize this, here's the perceived frequency response curve. You'll notice a slight upward tilt to things, but note that plus or minus 2 dB is excellent response, and that the curve is quite smooth. I don't usually talk about the spatial properties of headphones because headphones without special processing don't invoke the head-related transfer function elements of hearing that are necessary to perceive sounds placed accurately on a soundstage. But I have to say, the Solitaire T does create a sense of instrumental separation that makes instruments and voices seem more real and more engaging than is normal with headphones. I found this level of detail and hall ambience to be quite enjoyable. The dynamics of the Solitaire T deserve comment as well. When I say dynamics, you might think I mean that the solitaires can get really loud really quickly. That might be true, but I'm trying to point out something that might better be called vividness. Small and medium changes in volume happen with a timing rightness, and the tonality of the instruments is rich and full, so that instruments simply sound more real and more impactful. These are factors beyond frequency response. On the Shostakovich Symphony No. 10 with the BSO and Nelsons, the sound is well balanced, sure, and a key is that the strings and percussion dynamics are impressive. The sense of the hall sound in the air around different parts of the orchestra is also quite an achievement. As another example, the drum sound on Marina Allen's I'm the Same is impressively quick and well defined. On this track and on some others, the Solitaire T comes close to matching the best electrostatics on rim shots and other really dynamic instruments. I found that the high quality mode from a phone via USB cable worked better than Bluetooth, as you might expect. Bluetooth leads to a thrashy and dynamically dead sound as it usually does, but it seems more damaging on the Solitaire T because Bluetooth disturbs exactly the qualities in which the Solitaire T excels, so you notice the damage more. The passive mode, driven by $12,000 of streamer, DAC, and headphone amp, was good, but not a complete step ahead of the high quality mode via a phone. I have to say, the spatial qualities and the tonal differentiation were even better than the excellent performance in high quality mode, but in passive mode, the tonal balance shifted slightly in the thin direction, which isn't what is needed. Maybe a different amp would limit this, but as long as you're using a wire anyway, I wouldn't assume you need a desktop streamer and amp. As a side note, another advantage of the passive mode is that separate amplifier can probably drive the Solitaire Ts to a higher volume level than in high quality mode from a phone, if you need that sort of thing. All right, let's summarize. The smooth wideband performance of the Solitaire T, coupled with its vivid, airy instrumental rendition, is something special. That would be the case if these were simply wired headphones at this price level, but they're fully portable headphones with this level of performance. There are other good portable headphones below this price, but I think none of them quite reach this far on the performance scale. The Solitaire T legitimately could be your only headphones and require no other gear besides your phone. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Please stay tuned after the break for some advice from Siegfried Ampt about the best connections for different usage scenarios with the Solitaire T. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you again soon. In my interview with Siegfried, I was slightly confused about his technical ordering of which modes are likely to sound best, so I followed up with him to clarify. I think you might want to understand this in part because prospective purchasers will want to know if the better modes match their usage conditions. Also, since we at the Absolute Sound use an observational objective review methodology, it's always nice to compare these findings, after the fact, with either measurements or pure technical reasoning. History indicates that observational methods have generally greater resolving power, but one always wants to consider all the data. Here's what Siegfried said. Best quality is in analog passive mode. Internal circuitry is switched off, and the headphones are driven by the external amp, and quality is determined by that amp and the external DAC. A Pentacon cable, which is balanced, is best. I must say that I concur when Pentacon is used. Second rank for quality, says Siegfried, is the USB-C connection because it is lossless data transfer from the source to the Qualcomm chip as receiver using HQ mode in the headphones. The ESS Sabre DAC as a D to A converter and the T+A analog output stages. Quality is mostly determined then by the source. I have to say, I concur that this is very close second place to the passive mode. And it's portable. In third place is wireless with aptX HD and the headphones in HQ mode. This Bluetooth is not lossless, therefore USB-C is better. I believe this mode is a significant step down from USB-C. However, it's much better than standard Bluetooth, so it's still nice to have, at least if you have a phone that can deliver this mode. That means you have some of the newer Samsungs in the US, and there are many brands with some models that have this available elsewhere in the world. Fourth place goes to aptX and AAC with headphones in HQ mode, but aptX HD has the higher resolution. Fifth is ANC mode, because the D to A converter and output stages are not as good as using the circuit in T+A's that runs through the Sabre DAC. I would note that in this case, I believe you're using standard Bluetooth, and this is simply not what music lovers or audiophiles should be doing. So, I hope this helps you understand that the Solitaire T has several very good modes for the signal path, and if you're in the US, these modes are actually usable with most phones, which is not the case for aptX Adaptive or aptX HD or LDAC, which is not part of the conversation here, but is possible with Sony and some other devices. These are features that are touted, but in reality difficult to leverage at this stage of technological development. Again, thanks for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.